Everyone, we're back. Yes, I know, friends, that I took a pretty decent break, but that was just to gather my thoughts on some of this stuff. But now we're starting off strong with Season 2 with human evolution in recent years. So if you've ever been to science class before, you'll know that the scale of things goes back nearly 14 billion years roundabout, from the Big Bang to Earth forming to the first life emerging on Earth, to humanity then and humanity now. And while much of humanity's modern assets came about from us evolving way back when we were just a bunch of idiot cavemen, a lot of our things that are happening now actually came in the past couple centuries. So from the examples that we'll be using in the video, we'll go from the past 5,000 years or so, but while most of the examples will actually come about from before that, that won't stop me from shoehorning them in. When you think of human evolution, you think of us coming from various ape-like chimpy things to whatever this middleman is to our hairless ape bodies now. But that won't stop our DNA from doing wacky things, especially over a long period of time. Take blue eyes, for example. In the grand scheme of things, and especially human biology, blue eyes are relatively new, only being about 10,000 years old from a genetic mutation. What a great fact. Numero uno is human head size. You're familiar with the mass of your noggin now, but your noodle didn't always used to be so rotund and globular. Before the modern switch started 13,000 to 11,000 years ago, our heads were at least a little bit different, being slightly more robust. Nowadays, it wouldn't be enough to notice a whole new species, but it would look a little bit more unusual. This mostly came about from the switch from hunting animals, which is low brain stuff, to agriculture, which is big brain moves. Have you ever drank milk for sustenance? Well, thanks Central Europe. Humanity loves cows because the wild, untamed oxen gives us benefits like when we harvest from them a pail of sweet udder nectar. Whenever local humans at the time, thousands and thousands of years ago, saw it, it became an immediate craze, and slowly but surely people drank it. Over time, though, Europe was better off than others, and our genes done goofed up, and to this day, Europeans are better off with milk consumption. We'll talk about it in a second. Humans began to drink milk 11,000 years ago and gained the ability to stomach it 8 to 7,000 years ago. The reasons for all of these milky physiological hijinks is because of the enzyme in your bod called lactase, which essentially just allows milk to do its thing. It's good for our young so it can come from the mother and give them their nutrients, but as the body ages, lactase sharply drops. So when humans began to use cows for our milk ventures, the gene for lactase reappeared in Central and North Europe, creating a large haven for milk consumers in Europe, which is still felt to this very day. In terms of lactose intolerance, it affects nearly a little over 65% of the world, but only around 5% in Europe. Another big adaptation we now have is resistance to many modern diseases. Back in the day, 400 years ago, if you got so much as a cut on your fingy, some Dorcas of a wayward bacteria would come along, settle in, and infect you, and you die easily. Ripperoni pepperoni to you. But, thanks to modern science and medicines, this isn't an issue anymore. Let's talk about how that's an evolution, though. Let's say you get turbo sick because some dandy sneezed on you. Unless you have an underlying illness, you likely won't die and you'll live, but you will get a slew of symptoms, though. For example, if you live in the city where there's a greater looming threat of an illness sweeping through the place like wildfire, our body gets accustomed to whatever sorts of horse hockey Mother Nature throws at you since the disease is so prevalent that it's lost its touch, similar to how you can't drink tap water in some countries but the locals can. Over time, we've just kind of adapted to common bacteria. My guess is herd immunity, since over time we lived in crowded cities and areas and whatnot, but I don't know. Many of the world's high elevation areas have been settled by humans for thousands of years, so naturally we need a way to keep our precious oxy gas inside of us. Enter high elevation breathing adaptations. Common in people that live in Tibet in China and the Andes in Chile, the natives here have built up communities for, let's just say, a really long time. And since, oxygen runs thin up here, these people have evolved to counteract that. For clarity, by the way, humans evolved from Neanderthals at the earliest 300,000 years ago, so when I say an evolution took place a few thousand years ago, it's really not that long ago. Anyways, your blood cells need to carry oxygen when you breathe, which is how it works, on, the average elevation areas. But for some people that live pretty high up, their blood cells have adapted to carry much more oxygen, so it can retain it, leading to heavier birth weights to keep up this blood cell thing. According to Berkeley, Tibet has nearly 10% less oxygen, meaning that without the blood advantage, our Tibetan and Chilean friends would be working with a little less than only 90% of our oxygen, which isn't good. Why is that bad? Hypoxia, or not getting enough air. Symptoms include a fast heart rate, sweating a lot, and, untimely death. They found a way to get around it. What do you know? Good job, China, Chile, and more, etc. Well, that's all this time, everyone, so I hope you liked this episode. I feel like the topic is interesting, but I probably could have executed it a bit better. But hey, next time we're going to be talking about something that's really interesting, religion.